Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing abrupt climate change and other things as well. I mainly try to cover climate change news, but this channel gets a little messy, and I'm sorry, as in not sorry, as in that's what this channel is about. We talk about other things, besides climate change. There's quite a bit of political discussion on the comment section, in the comment section. For the last video, and you know what? I encourage it. I think it's good. I think it's healthy. Many things are interconnected on the subject of climate change. And if all you want is just climate change news, there are other channels that are just doing like straight up scientific, here's what it is. If that's what you want, then go for it. Like there are channels that are doing great work in that area. I'm just a little bit different, and I want to be a little bit different. I want to engage in discussions about how people think about this, about how people think about other things. That is the point of this channel. I don't have an opportunity to talk about climate change with a lot of people because they don't get it. The feeling. I also don't have a lot of opportunity to talk about politics or psychology or sociology or anything else with a lot of other people, because they just people are really fractured and really polarized and really tribal right now in their thinking, and I find that distressing. And I think that people are becoming more distressed as time goes on, not just about climate change news, but about what's happening politically, about what's going on sociologically, about what's happening in the world of, there's all kinds of really terrible stuff going on in the world, and a lot of bad behavior is being brought to light. All the terribleness of the world, because we have social media, because we have these platforms, is being brought to light for people to look at and for people to talk about, for people to think about. And it is causing a lot of distress, I think, among a lot of people. Because now that we have all this information, and now that we have all this access to information, and now that we have all this access to opine about this information, I think it's leading us into other psychological areas that we're not ready to deal with, or we're not able to deal with yet, right? This is a growing pain, if you will. This is a signpost along the road. This is a marker along the road. This is, events that are shaping how we react to things in the future. So therefore, there's lots of things to think about. So I'm just, I really would like to encourage people to, I know that we can be hurt. I know that we can be offended. I know that we can be put off, by things that we don't agree with, or the things that we don't feel are for us, or whatever. Lots of those things can cause people distress, and I get it. But I think that we need to look at the distress as a way in which we grow. And I really want to talk about some political stuff. I thought I was going to I probably won't in this video because I don't have time, and I wish I had time for more things, but my life is just over the top in its own way. There are so many things to discuss and to cover politically and psychologically. I can't even begin. And I would like to, and I'm going to, because things need to be talked about. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to avoid talking about things because I'm afraid of what people will think about me or what people will want to hear or want to listen to. That if you, again, I'm not saying that my way is the right way, but what I am saying is try to be open to other ways. Because in this day and age, we are encouraged to cut people off or cast people out or trash people or close ourselves off from issues and situations just because we heard something we didn't like. So therefore, everything about this person or this situation is totally wrong and not reliable and not to be trusted or not to be listened to or not to be looked at or not to be, you know, et cetera, whatever. And let's tie this into abrupt climate change. How we look at climate change and how we go about dealing with climate change, there are lots of different opinions on this. There's the, oh my God, it's too late and, you know, there's nothing we can do, so just enjoy yourself opinion. There's the we still have time opinion. There's the slow boat to Cairo. Let's make, you know, let's have some climate taxes and carbon taxes and try to convert to renewables by 2045. There's, you know, there's limitless ways in which to think about this. I don't know that there's a right way. I just think that we can try to look at where we're at as realistically as possible and at least have an informed discussion about what it is we're supposed to do about all of this. I'm not going to, you know, I'm just not going to say that there's a right way, you know. We look like we are rounding the bend into some serious times. So, you know, how is it that we are going to deal with this? Is actually everyone's, up to everyone's personal choice, honestly. I just hope that we can make the right decisions or do the right things or at least carry the right feelings in our heart for people who we disagree with, who we, you know, maybe we don't find them to our liking, maybe we find them totally and completely offensive, but look, man, here we are all in this together. We are all going to have to deal with this stuff, and we're going to have to find some way to communicate with others unless we all want to be isolated and everyone is wrong and we are right. That's where we're heading psychologically. I'm right, you're disgusting, goodbye. That's, you know, that's where we're going in this world about how to deal with people. Anyways, let's cover some awesome news, some awesome climate change news. Domino effect of climate events could push Earth into a hothouse state. This is from The Guardian. From yesterday, leading scientists warn that passing such a point would make efforts to reduce emissions increasingly futile. A domino-like cascade of melting ice, warming seas, shifting currents, and dying forests could tilt the Earth into a hothouse state beyond which human efforts to reduce emissions will be increasingly futile. A group of leading climate scientists has warned this grim prospect is sketched out in a journal paper that considers the combined consequences of 10 climate change processes, including the release of methane trapped in Siberian permafrost and the impact of melting ice in Greenland on the Antarctic. climate cascade feedback loops could amplify one another, pushing Earth towards hothouse state, warn scientists. The authors of the essay, published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, stress their analysis is not conclusive, but warn that the Paris commitment to keep warming at 2°C above pre-industrial levels may not be enough to park the planet's climate at its stable temperature. They warned that the hothouse trajectory would almost certainly flood deltaic environments, increase the risk of damage from coastal storms, and eliminate coral reefs, and all of the benefits that they provide for societies by the end of this century or earlier. 50 years ago, this would be dismissed as alarmist, but now scientists have become really worried. Johan Rockström, executive director, Stockholm Resilience Center. This article is all messed up. I do hope we are wrong, but as scientists, we have a responsibility to explore whether this is real, said Johan Rockström, executive director of the Stockholm Resilience Center. We need to know now. It's so urgent. This is one of the most existential questions in science. Rockström and his co-authors are among the world's leading authorities on positive feedback loops, by which warming temperatures release new sources of greenhouse gases or destroy the Earth's ability to absorb carbon or reflect heat. Their new paper asks whether the planet's temperature can stabilize at 2°C or whether it will gravitate towards a more extreme state. Okay. There's a certain amount of propaganda going on with this article. The authors attempt to assess whether the warming can be halted or whether it will flip towards a hothouse world that is 4°C warmer than pre-industrial times and far less supportive of human life. I guess they're trying to really let people down easy, is what they're trying to do. Catherine Richardson of the University of Copenhagen, one of the authors, said the paper showed that climate action was not just a case of turning the knob on emissions, but of understanding how various factors interact at a global level. We note that the Earth has never in its history had a quasi-stable state that is around 2°C warmer. We note that the Earth has never in its history had a quasi-stable state that is around 2°C warmer than the pre-industrial, and suggest that there is substantial risk that the system itself will want to continue warming because of all these other processes, even if we stop emissions, she said. This implies not only reducing emissions, but much more. Okay, so yes, there is no quasi-stable state around 2°C. There is none. Just so people can, if people aren't aware of that. New feedback loops are still being discovered. A separate paper published in PNAS reveals that increased rainfall, a symptom of climate change in some regions, is making it harder for forest soils to trap greenhouse gases such as methane. Previous studies have shown that the weakening carbon sinks will add 0.25C. Oh, is that all? Forest dieback will add 0.11C. Sounds manageable, guys. Permafrost thaw will add 0.9C, and increased bacterial respiration will add 0.02C. The authors of the new paper also look at the loss of methane hydrates from the ocean floor and the reduction of snow and ice cover at the poles. Rockström says that there are huge gaps in data and knowledge about how one process might amplify another, contrary to the Gaia theory, which suggests that Earth has a self-righting tendency. He says that the feedbacks could push the planet to a more extreme state. Could. As an example, the authors say the loss of Greenland ice could disrupt the Gulf Stream ocean current, which would raise sea levels and accumulate heat in the Southern Ocean, which would in turn accelerate ice loss from the East Antarctic. Concerns about this possibility were heightened earlier this year by reports that the Gulf Stream was at its weakest level in 1,600 years. Currently, global average temperatures are just over 1°C above pre-industrial levels and rising at 0.17C per decade. Okay. The Paris Climate Agreement set actions to keep warming limited to 1.5C to 2C by the end of the century, but the authors warn more drastic action may be necessary. All right. Okay. Several positive feedback loops are already in operation, but they are still weak. We need studies to show when they might cause a runaway effect. Okay. What is weak or weak sauce is this article. Absolutely weak sauce. We are in runaway global warming right now. Period. There is no stabilizing at 2C, period. There is no holding us to 2C, period. I'm sorry to tell you that. But this is a form of, obviously, propaganda that allows people to be like, okay, you know, maybe we should be worried. Pardon me, but things are starting to move quite slow on this computer. And trying to get this page to load, and I apologize. Should have had it loaded earlier, and I did not. Well, let's move on while I'm waiting. To something that's incredibly frightening. This is from Reuters, August 3rd. French nuclear production reduced to 3.1 gigawatts due to heat wave. The heat wave across France has forced French utility EDF to reduce or cut nuclear electricity generation at 4 reactors, power grid operator RTE said on Friday. EDF, which operates the 58 nuclear reactors that cover around 75% of France's electricity needs, extended outages at the 900 megawatt Bougie 2 and or Boogie 2, Bougie, and St. Alban 1 nuclear reactors until August 11th. Production was reduced by 665 megawatts at the 900 megawatt Bougie 3 and by 300 megawatts at its 900 megawatt Fessenheim 2 reactor. EDF said on Wednesday that forecasts of high temperatures in the Rhone River could lead to the shutdown from August 3rd of 4 nuclear reactors which depend on its waters for cooling, Bougie 2 and 3, St. Alban 1 and 2. The utility discharges water it uses as coolant for the reactors into surrounding rivers and canals. And that's got to be just great for the rivers and canals. The quantity and temperature of the water it discharges is regulated by law to protect plant and animal life. I'm sure it is. Forcing EDF to cut output during prolonged hot weather when river temperatures rise. On Friday, water temperatures rose to over 26 degrees Celsius or 78.8 Fahrenheit upstream the Rhine River, where Fessenheim is located. On the Rhone, the water temperature was also at 26 degrees, according to Thomson Reuters data. Hot air from North Africa's Sahara has caused the most severe heat wave in Europe since 2003. Okay, so here we go. We have nuclear reactors beginning to be affected by extreme weather events. A few years ago in Omaha, Nebraska, where there was a nuclear reactor, there was a flooding which almost got very close to cresting the banks of the barrier around the nuclear reactor, which could have caused bad things. If you are still a supporter of nuclear energy as a way to combat climate change, you are an absolute idiot. That's my own personal opinion. But if you think that nuclear reactors are safe in extreme weather events or cannot be affected by extreme weather events, or that it would be a good thing for nuclear reactors to melt down because they could not be controlled or kept online, you are not thinking. There are a lot of people out there that support nuclear power, and it's totally safe. I'm telling you right now, every single nuclear reactor that's online today is absolutely not safe. And also the waste from nuclear reactors cannot be handled or stored properly yet. We don't know how to store nuclear waste for the long term yet. We don't know how to handle it because it has to be managed, right? So if a nuclear waste site cannot be managed, bad things, very, very bad things. So therefore, any way forward that we want to take or need to take regarding climate change has to include decommissioning all nuclear reactors worldwide and all nuclear weapons worldwide. This has to be priority number 1 or 2 on the list. You know, if there's a list of 3 things that we need to do, nuclear reactors are right there and nuclear weapons are right there. Anybody who says anything otherwise is a complete jerk and not to be trusted or listened to on any level. Yeah, that is my opinion. I feel strongly about it. One more article I'm going to read, and I cannot, for the life of me, understand why this is. Sorry, I'm going to pause this while I. All right, guys, I'm going to have to read this article from my phone because it won't load. Salon.com has a lot of junky code on their website, so it just is not going to load for me. Here we go. From August 5th. On climate change, it's time to start panicking. Is it now? Is it time for us to panic about global warming? And indeed, a proper state of panic is long overdue. Global warming has made the news for a number of reasons this week. The Supreme Court rejected a request by President Donald Trump to halt a lawsuit by children and teenagers to force the federal government to address man-made climate change. Trump's Environmental Protection Agency and Department of Transportation took new steps to reverse President Barack Obama's rules requiring car manufacturers to steadily reduce greenhouse gas pollution from their vehicles. Former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger denounced those same Trump policies as stupid, and they are stupid. And the New York Times ran a brilliant piece documenting how between 1979 and 1989, the world had an opportunity to effectively address man-made climate change and squandered it. Yet this is one of those issues in which, because there are so many twists and turns and overwhelming details, it is easy to lose sight of a crucial fact. If we do not resolve the problem of man-made climate change, it could quite literally spell the end of human civilization. There will be, and already is, major consequences, and they grow over time. It does not look good. Kevin Trenberth, a distinguished senior scientist in the climate analysis section of the National Center for Atmospheric Research at the University, Atmospheric Research at the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research. Okay. I always like to see university and corporation in the same title. That makes me feel good about what the work they're doing. Anyways, told Salon by email, the effects are always local, but there are more and more of them, and the consequences are major. These includes flood and drought. These include floods and drought, heat waves, and wildfires. He also pointed Salon in the direction of a paper he co-authored and elaborated on how Hurricane Harvey in particular could be linked to climate change. Is, absolutely. Indeed, the California wildfires that ravaged America's most populous state last month provide a major example of the dangers of man-made climate change discussed by Trenberth. A number of scientists have come out to argue that the devastating blazes were at the very least exacerbated by climate change, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. As Jennifer Francis, a professor at Rutgers University who studies atmospheric circulation, told the newspaper regarding the searing heat wave and weaker wind patterns. We're seeing this mix of conditions across North America and Europe, but they're all connected. The weather patterns are just stuck. They're trapped. The good news is that humanity hasn't passed to the point of no return, at least when it comes to the total destruction of our species. We have definitely passed the point when it comes to avoiding any kind of lasting consequences. If we are to stave off even worse examples of extreme weather than hurricanes, wildfires, floods, droughts, and heat waves we've already experienced, however, we need to start implementing intelligent policies and do so now. And then here comes Michael Mann with his brilliant stuff. I would place a price on carbon. Says Michael Mann, a distinguished professor of atmospheric science at Penn State. Okay, it's too late for that, Michael Mann, professor of atmospheric science at Penn State. It's too late for that, Michael Mann. Whether this takes a form of carbon tax, blah, 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 fee, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this doesn't mean anything. The price on carbon needs to be set at such that it leads to, okay, what needs to happen, Michael Mann, distinguished professor of atmospheric science at Penn State, is that we ban the use of carbon altogether, not a tax. We need to ban the use of carbon altogether. It is too late for a carbon tax. It is too late. He also rejected the idea promoted by many because it was too late 30 years ago or 20 years ago when we had a window of time to do things like tax carbon. He also rejected the idea promoted by many on the left that a lasting solution to global warming is impossible under a free market capitalist economic system. And this is why anything you have to say, Michael Mann, is absolutely bullshit. Absolutely bullshit. I know. I'm totally going against what I said earlier at the very beginning of this video. I'm completely contradicting myself, but this is not going to work. But I'm reading this because, you know, I'm hoping that nobody takes this seriously, but this is what is being said. I'm unconvinced this is true. In the past, market mechanisms for pricing environmental externalities have worked. But we have Donald Trump in office. And despite what you might think, I think about Donald Trump, if you're following climate change on any level, Donald Trump is an absolute disaster for the climate. Donald Trump is absolutely enemy number one of the climate right now, in this present moment. Ken Caldera from the Carnegie Institute for Sciences Department of Global Ecology offered another observation about the economic considerations that need to be taken into account when trying to develop an energy policy that effectively confronts global warming. We will also need to have policies that wisely balance competing interests based on some sort of national analysis of the facts. So the analysis was in a long time ago, Ken Caldera. The whole world needs to develop based on near zero emission technologies, and so would need to enact similar policies. Of course, with so many demands on limited resources and such inequitable distribution of wealth, this remains a challenge, and that is very true. Perhaps most important of all, at least in the immediate sense, is that Americans need to elect a president who will renew this country's participation in the Paris Climate Accord. Okay, absolutely. Although that's a positive step, although carbon taxes might be a positive step, although Switching to renewables might be a positive step. These were things that needed to happen in 1990, not in 2018. I mean, sure, go for it. I'm going to link all these articles below. But it's hot, you know, it's like 100 degrees in Southern California. We're having like a little mini bump in our ongoing heat wave that just kind of never stops. And what we have on the horizon is crop damage leading to not just higher prices, but most likely the beginnings of people beginning to not be able to eat, for people to not be able to afford food. We have the very early warning signs of possible famine, not just in the third world, but possibly in the first and second world as well, due to climate change in the next few years. So we're going to have to ramp up the policies way beyond way beyond market forces and you know, good governance, and you know, trying to use capitalist mechanisms to stave off climate change. We are way beyond those solutions, guys, to tell you the truth. And we might be beyond any solutions at all. But if we're going to have any solutions in place, let's at least make sure that we're operating in the world of reality. And unfortunately, many scientists still are not. Many scientists still are not telling you the truth. Many scientists still would like to keep their jobs in the face of the fact that not many people are going to have jobs very soon. I know this is frightening. I know this is hard to think about. I know this is uncomfortable for people. But please at least take this in as a very, very likely impossible scenario of our near future, so that you can make educated choices about how you're going to conduct yourself. I am going to come back with another political video, not today, probably, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, I'm not sure. But there are some really important things that need to be talked about that I want to talk about, and hope you all are willing to listen or engage in discussion on these points. I'm hoping that people won't be prone to running away. But it's all good. And I also wanted to just say something really like frightening and random. I just saw a very old friend of mine that I haven't seen in like probably 20 years on Facebook, talking about the fact that he was going to kill somebody, and not just like, I'm frustrated and I want to kill somebody, but no, he had a particular person in mind that he was going to go kill. And he was saying like, look, I'm really thinking about actually killing somebody, and I need some help. If you are in any way in that kind of shape mentally, I think that's actually a wonderful thing that Facebook is available for people to actually kind of like shout to the world, like, hey, I'm having a situation. I've seen it at other times as well, but I just want to say, if you are experiencing an extreme emotional situation to any problem, whatever it might be, whether it's climate change or racism or sexism or abuse or whatever might be triggering you to feel these feelings, you know, reach out, shout out, get some help. You know, there's absolutely people out there that will jump in and help you. And we need to all be ready to jump in and help people, as these, I'm sure, emotional episodes are going to be occurring much more frequently in the future. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. I hope to be back very, very soon with another video. Thank you once again. Until next time, peace.